Someone told you to forgive them. Maybe it was a therapist, a friend, a family member who doesn't know the whole story. Maybe it was something you read that made it sound so clean. Forgiveness sets you free, like it's a switch. Like once you decide to forgive, the weight just lifts. So, you tried. And here's what happened. You said the words, or thought the words, or told yourself you'd forgiven them. And then they texted. Or you drove past a place you used to go together. Or you just woke up at 4 a.m. with your heart pounding. And all of it came back. Here's what nobody who told you to forgive actually explained. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It's not trust. It's not an open door. Forgiveness is something you do entirely for yourself. And it has nothing to do with whether they deserve it. We have a collective misconception about what forgiveness is, and it's costing people years. When most people hear the word forgiveness, they imagine something relational. They imagine it involves the other person, an apology, maybe, or at least a reckoning. Like forgiveness is a transaction. They acknowledge what they did. You release the debt. But that model of forgiveness has a fatal flaw. It makes your healing conditional on their behavior. And if you've been waiting for someone to apologize who has no intention of apologizing, or someone who doesn't even believe they did anything wrong, then you already know what this costs you. You're not holding onto resentment because you're weak. You're holding onto it because somewhere inside you, you believe that releasing it means they got away with it, that your pain is the only evidence that what happened actually happened. I know what you're thinking right now, but if I forgive them, doesn't that mean what they did was okay? No, and that distinction, right there, is the entire video. In 1984, a psychologist named Robert Enright was watching people destroy themselves. He was studying people who had been genuinely, seriously wronged, betrayal, abandonment, abuse, and he noticed something that he couldn't ignore. The people who stayed locked in resentment were not healing. They were not getting justice, they were just staying in pain. And more than that, the resentment itself was functioning as a second wound. The person who hurt them had left. But the wound was being kept open, maintained, in some cases almost carefully, by the person who was hurt. This wasn't a moral failure, it was a psychological trap. Enright spent the next 2 decades developing what became the first clinical, empirically validated model of forgiveness. What he found, and what dozens of replicated studies since have confirmed, is that forgiveness is not primarily a moral act. It's a cognitive and emotional process of releasing the psychological grip that an injury has on you. There's a distinction in psychology between two things that sound the same but are completely different: forgiveness and condoning. Condoning says, what you did was acceptable. Forgiveness says, I'm no longer willing to carry this. Forgiveness doesn't change the past. It doesn't rehabilitate the person who hurt you. It doesn't mean they get access to you, or your trust, or your life. It means you stop bleeding from a wound that exists entirely inside you. Dr. Fred Luskin at Stanford found something specific. People who forgave showed measurable reductions in stress hormones, lower cortisol, reduced blood pressure, improved sleep quality, and critically, when they were exposed to reminders of the person who hurt them, the physiological stress response was significantly smaller. Not because the memory was gone, because it no longer owned them. That's the goal, not amnesia, not indifference. The ability to remember without being taken hostage. Here's the part that most conversations about forgiveness skip entirely. Forgiveness is not a decision you make once. It's not an event. It is a process that happens in the body as much as in the mind, and your nervous system has a vote. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, in The Body Keeps the Score, documented how your nervous system encodes harm somatically. The wound isn't just a memory. It's stored in your shoulders, in your jaw, in the catch in your throat. Your body is still protecting you. This is why you can think I forgive them and feel nothing shift. Because the cognitive decision and the somatic processing are two completely different systems. Your prefrontal cortex can decide to forgive, but your amygdala, the threat detection center, is listening to what your body learned during the relationship. It needs to unlearn. It means forgiveness isn't something you achieve with your head. It's something you practice with your whole nervous system. And that takes time. Let's talk about the specific fear underneath all of this. Because when people resist forgiving someone, it's rarely pure anger. Underneath the anger, there's usually fear. If I stop being angry, I'll let my guard down. If I forgive them, they'll think it's an invitation. This is actually irrational fear. Anger is protective, but it's expensive armor. Chronic resentment keeps you in a state of low-grade vigilance that is exhausting. Here's what forgiveness with a closed door looks like in practice. It looks like thinking about them and feeling sad instead of enraged. Not because you've minimized what happened, but because the intensity has shifted from threat to loss. It looks like being able to say, "That person hurt me, and I deserved better, and I'm no longer spending my energy on them." Not "it was fine," not "I understand why they did it." Just, "I'm done giving them real estate in my body and my mind." That's the beginning of forgiveness. You just have to be willing to stop carrying it forward. Forgiveness as a practice means returning to it. There's a technique from acceptance and commitment therapy called cognitive diffusion. When the thought comes, instead of engaging with it, you say, "I notice I'm having the thought that they don't deserve forgiveness." This creates distance. You're no longer inside the thought, you're looking at it. Diffusion measurably reduces emotional reactivity. Pair this with something somatic. Each time you practice the diffusion, take 3 slow breaths. Signal to your nervous system, "I am safe right now." You're forgiving them for this moment, so that this moment belongs to you, not to them. This is going to take longer than you want it to. Research on post-traumatic growth suggests recovery typically takes 6 to 18 months of active processing. That's not a sentence to make you feel defeated. It's so you stop being surprised that you're not over it yet. You don't have to forgive perfectly. But I want you to consider releasing one thing: the idea that forgiving them means letting them win. They already took something from you. Don't let them take this too. Your anger is yours. Your healing is yours. Your life, moving forward without the weight of someone who didn't choose you, that is yours. Forgiveness isn't something you owe them, it's something you owe yourself.